Before we begin, I'd like to ask you something. Not because I know the answer, and not because I expect you to find one overnight. Only because some questions have a way of making room inside us. What have you been carrying for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like not to? Don't answer too quickly. Sometimes the heaviest things can't be named immediately. Sometimes they've become so familiar, they simply feel like part of who we are. Perhaps it's responsibility. Perhaps it's grief. Perhaps it's disappointment. Perhaps it's a promise you made long ago. Or perhaps it's something much quieter. An expectation, a regret, a sentence you've repeated to yourself so many times, it no longer sounds like a sentence. It sounds like the truth. Now, take a slow breath. Not to escape anything, just to arrive. Notice the chair beneath you, the air around you, the rhythm of your breathing. There is nothing you need to achieve in this moment. Only this breath, and the next, and the next. Imagine you've been walking a long road, not rushing, just walking for miles. On your back is a well-worn backpack. You've carried it for so long that you barely notice it's there anymore. Its straps have shaped themselves to your shoulders. Its weight has become familiar, so familiar, that you no longer ask whether everything inside still belongs there. But what if, just for a second, you became curious? Not about the destination, about the backpack. What have you placed inside it over the years? Whose expectations are tucked between the folds? What disappointments did you pack because you believed you had to? What old fears have you been carrying, long after they stopped protecting you? Now, there is no need to empty the backpack tonight. This isn't our purpose. Our purpose is to simply look inside with kindness. Imagine setting the backpack on the ground, not throwing it away, not giving up on it, just setting it down for a little while. Notice how your shoulders respond. Notice what changes even before you remove a single thing. Have you ever noticed that we sometimes carry things not because they're ours, but because we've become accustomed to carrying them? A parent's expectations, someone else's disappointment, an old criticism, a role we accepted years ago without ever asking why it still fit. If those things could speak, what would they say? And if your own quiet wisdom could answer, what might it whisper in return? Now, think of a tree. Not because trees have all the answers, but because they understand seasons. Each autumn, they release what has completed its purpose. Not because the leaves were failures, not because they weren't beautiful, but because holding on forever would make new growth impossible. What season are you in? Are you growing, resting, healing, beginning again, or simply waiting, without realizing that waiting can also be part of becoming? There is a question that many of us quietly avoid, not because we don't care, but because we're afraid of the answer. If no one expected anything from you tomorrow, how would you spend the day? What would draw your attention? Where would your curiosity lead? Who would you call? What would you create? Or would you simply rest without feeling the need to earn it? When does rest become something that required permission? Who taught us that? Imagine seeing someone you deeply admire, someone kind, someone wise, someone whose presence makes you feel seen. Now imagine they tell you, "I'm exhausted. I've been carrying everything alone." Would your first response be, "You should carry more"? Or would something gentler arise? Would you tell them, "It's okay to pause. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to admit this is heavy"? Why is compassion so much easier to offer than to receive from ourselves? Perhaps strength has never meant carrying everything. Perhaps strength also includes knowing when something deserves to be looked at instead of simply endured. Maybe there are burdens that belong to your story and burdens that only passed through it. Can you tell the difference? Not perfectly, just honestly. What would change if you stopped asking, "How much more can I carry?" and began asking, "What truly belongs with me as I continue this journey?" There may not be an answer tonight, and that's all right. Some questions are not solved. They are lived. Notice your breathing again. Notice that your shoulders know how to soften without being told. Notice that your heart continues its quiet work without asking for applause. There is wisdom in the body, not because it knows every answer, but because it keeps reminding us to return to this moment again and again. You don't have to leave this conversation lighter. You don't have to feel transformed. Sometimes the greatest change begins the moment we become willing to notice what we've been carrying. As our time comes to a close, I'd like to leave you with just one question. Tomorrow, when you begin reaching for everything you usually carry, will you pause just long enough to ask, "Does this still belong to me?"